You know, Wednesday, Kamala Harris had a sit down interview on Fox News with Brent Baer, and she showed a part of her that some Americans might have didn't know, because she go to these other news sources who want her to be elected, so they ask her candy questions. But this guy, who some say asks tough questions, I don't agree. He asks great questions. Nothing tough. If somebody asks you a direct question, it's not tough. You know, he asked her questions that actually matter to the American people. And Kamala showed the whole entire world why she is not fit to be in political office. She's not even fit to be a vice president. She is not fit to be in no political office, especially the highest office in the land, in the most powerful country in the land. She is not equipped to do that. One thing we know about Donald Trump is this: every news source that he went on, besides, well, not every, but most, he's getting grilled, and what does Donald Trump do? He keep his composure. He remain poised like a man. And not so much like a man, but a businessman. This man been in business several years. He didn't had ups and downs. But being in business for so long, having businesses all across the world, he's had some negotiations with all kind of different people, colors, and creeds. And sometimes I'm almost positive it got kind of heated. So this doesn't bother him. Not to mention the last 8 years of this man's life has been miserable just because he trying to actually help America and not use America to enrich himself, right? But we're going to leave all that outside. We're going to stick to straight facts and logic in this video. And I ask that you leave your feelings when you listen to the video and just deal with straight logic. And I understand that when you're dealing with the masses, most people believe what they want to believe, and they not going and that's just how it's going to work. So if most people that might come across this, that's a Kamala supporter, they might still stay with Kamala. And the Trump supporters, of course, going to still stay with Trump. But the independents out there, the undecideds out there, hopefully this sway you to down the Trump side. And if you can go light somebody else's flame, because, it's all about that one. You know what I'm saying? Because that one can go light up. That one candle that I light with this message can go light one candle that can light 10 candles, and that 10 candle can light one candle. Then you know how it go, it multiplies. We've seen how this woman and this administration has handled foreign affairs. We've seen how they've sent money to Ukraine and Iran and all of these other countries while we have homeless veterans sleeping on the street. We've seen how these people handled hurricane victims. We've seen all of this in these people. We've seen it all. Everybody for the world to see. We've seen it. But the way this woman conducted herself in an interview with Brent Baer, when he just asked her, like I said, logical questions that the American people want to hear, she became frustrated. She became irate. And it got to the point where her handlers quit the interview. On multiple occasions, they was waving to quit the interview. It got out of hand. And the problem with that is, as I just aforementioned, not all of the horrible things she did, her and her administration did. And for y'all that might say, well, she wasn't president, she was vice president. She said on The View, she said on more than one account, more than one show, that not one thing that Joe Biden did, she wasn't against. She was with him. And not only was she with him, she supported every decision that had an impact on the American people. So all the things that I just mentioned, the hurricane, the sending money to foreign countries, to housing and helping illegals and doing all this stuff, she was with that. The foreign affairs, where the 13 American soldiers life was taken. All of these things she took part in. And agreed with Joe Biden. They asked her on the View, I forgot what else that was, would you have did anything different? And she said no. She said no. And she didn't, and I understand some people may say, well, she was being a good soldier. You know what I'm saying? But she didn't even have to say that. All she had to do was say, look, Joe Biden is the president and he made some decisions, but I'm going to say this here. Everything in life from hindsight is things you did wrong and it's things you could have did right to improve it if you could go back. That's all she had to say. But she's so puffed up with pride, the Jezebel spirit, that she didn't have the humility to say that. So she went on ahead and said, no, everything he was with, I was with. So electing her is going to just be 4 more years and actually it's going to get worse. But let me get back to the interview. So she gets, very out of composure. And, this is no disrespect to women, bashing women, because if I disrespect women or bash women, what I'm about to say, I would have to disrespect God and bash him because God created women a certain way. He wired them a certain way. He wired women a certain way. Why he wired them that way, I don't know. But he wired women a certain way, and women cannot handle pressure. And the reason why they can't handle pressure is because they wasn't supposed to. The woman was put here for the man. Eve was put here for Adam. The Bible say he who finds a good wife find a good thing, not she who finds a good husband find a good thing. The woman was put here for the man. The man is the head. And so when women try to get in the driver's seat and pressure come toward them, they can't handle it because they're not equipped to handle it. So once again, as we mentioned, I'm not bashing women because I would have to bash God because God didn't create them for that. Women are better in things than men. They have their strengths over us. That's why we're supposed to come together as a team and be one, and we help each other to be perfect because their imperfections is their weakness is our strength. Our strength is our weaknesses is their strength. So this is not a bash to black women. This is not a bash to women, period. So I want to be clear on that. But women was not wired that way to be able to deal with pressure, to be able to remain poised under pressure. That's not how they were equipped. So when they get in that position, they get irate and they cry and they go through all these emotions because this is not what they're equipped to do. They're out of their role, right? And feminism has a big part in that because feminism, on the forefront says women should be getting treated equal, which is everybody agree with that. Women are not second class citizens. They're just important to this world as men. But feminism on the dark side, what it really is spiritually, the Jezebel spirit, which is putting the woman over the man. And that's not the order of God. That's why anytime that happens, anything come after that is just hellfire. Because the woman is not supposed to be the head, right? Why did I just say all that? Because we about to get in this interview. We're going to show why Kamala does not need to be in no vice president position. She most definitely don't need to be in no presidential position over the most powerful country in the world. And having to go sit with people like Vladimir Putin, Xi Jinping, Kim Jong-un, and all of these other leaders around the world, she will get ate up for breakfast. This is why a lot of them just came out and supported her. Because they understand that if she get elected, how weak America is going to be. Right? After you see how this woman acted with her fellow American, just by asking her simple question that the American people want to hear, just imagine her in negotiation talks about war with Kim Jong-un, Vladimir Putin. They'll eat up for breakfast. We cannot have this woman in office. We cannot vote. We cannot vote Kamala. Either hold your vote or give it to Donald Trump. Because if this woman get in office, our country is in trouble. Trump handled these situations all the time. Trump go on these interviews and these people grill him. Most of these interviews, he remained poised because, not only is he a man and he's equipped for that, Donald Trump is a businessman who got businesses all across the world. He's been dealing negotiations with boxers and just all kind of people. So he understands, and I'm sure in his life, it then got heated in negotiations. So at this point in his life, in his late 70s, almost early 80s, he's poised in these type of situations. This woman is not equipped for that. This woman is full to the top of the Jezebel spirit. And to add insult to injury, last night they had a Catholic dinner for everybody to come. Everybody was there but her. And she just so happened to be at another rally, and they had some people in there screaming, Jesus is Lord. She said, no, you at the wrong rally, and got these people escorted out. This woman is evil, man. This woman is evil, man. This woman is Jezebel, man. But like I say, man, we're going to stay on topic, man, and get into this interview. And the interview is the same old with Kamala. Just a bunch of bombastic word salads, a bunch of filibustering, because she gave Brent Baer 30 minutes and she knew that filibuster was going to kill time. And she didn't even give him 30 minutes before the people raged, quit. Not to mention, she was 15 minutes late to the interview. And what that was doing was icing the kicker. And if you don't understand the term icing the kicker, that's a football term where a team about to kick a field goal. So right before they kick the field goal, the other team will call a timeout to throw the kicker off. So that 15 minutes late, right? And that was to throw Brent Baer off. But the thing about it is, Brent Baer wasn't here for a I got your moment. He wasn't here for a soundbite. He was here to ask her simple questions that every American wants to know, right? And that's what she did. And as I say, they gave Brent Baer 30 minutes. It was already understood he would have 30 minutes. They came 15 minutes late, and she did a lot of filibustering, killing time. Same thing she always do. Bombastic word salads, filibustering to kill time, and everything is Trump's fault, right? So we about to get into this, and of course, throughout it, I'm going to chime in. But this video needs to be watched with my commentary or without my commentary to understand why this woman cannot be the leader of the free world.
Madam Vice President, thank you for the time.
Thank you. It's good to be with you, Brett.
You know, voters tell pollsters all over the country and here in Pennsylvania that immigration is one of the key issues that they're looking at this election, and specifically the influx of illegal immigrants from more than 150 countries. How many illegal immigrants would you estimate your administration has released into the country over the last 3.5 years?
Well, I'm glad you raised the issue of immigration, because I agree with you. It is a topic of discussion that people want to rightly have. And you know what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, but do you think it's 1 million, 3 million?
Brett, let's just get to the point, okay?
Once again, you know, she went to all these liberal news stations who want her to be president. So her and the news station behind the scenes, this is anecdotal. I don't have nothing to verify this, but this has been said that they get and they rehearse the questions and everything. Well, with Brent Baer and Fox News, it was no rehearsals. And as you see, it's not even a minute in his interview, and she's already getting frustrated because he's asking her a direct question. One thing about a direct question to a woman, that's pressure on her. She want to go into the meat of it and try to filibuster her way and trying to go around the answer. If you ask a woman a question, for example, you say, did you cheat with that man? After you already had, say, if you got video recording of her or something, you cheated with a man. What she's going to, whatever it is, I'll just use that for example. Whatever it is, what she's going to do is, well, you did this and you've been doing this and you did this all this time. And she's going to go all, instead of saying, did you cheat? Yes or no? And then okay, I cheated. I'm sorry. Can we move on? Or is we going to get to, can we fix this? Instead of doing that, it's going to be everything about that outside of that. Now, we 41 seconds. It's funny. I'm not bullshit. You see the screen. You see the time on the screen. We 41 seconds in this interview. He asked her a direct question. Now, we understand that she might not know the exact number. Nobody probably does. But she could have gave a rough estimate, but that's not what she did. She went to filibustering once again to kill time. And that was a direct question that made her look bad, because all of these illegals came in this country because the Democratic Party see that black people are being waking up slowly but surely and leaving the Democratic plantation. So what they trying to do is fill the Democratic plantation back up with illegals for votes. You see what I'm saying? Because some black people, they just ain't gonna get it. They gonna die on a Democratic plantation either what it is. But a lot of younger black people, 40 and under, 50 and under, they're beginning to wake up and say, listen, man, what's going on here? We've been getting lied to for years by you guys. There's no excuses. Y'all had the House, the Senate in Barack time and her time. And, what's going on? Black people are waking up because, once again, we are in the age of information. And so, our people back in the day, they didn't have a phone to just readily pick up this or readily read this, or they got so many people, historians on here who do research for you. Back then, they had to pick up a book or go on encyclopedia or actually have that lived experience, which is, in my opinion, black people been still left the Democratic Party, because if you look in history, they never was for black people. The 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment, the Democrat went against it. And that was the slavery, and things like that there. So the Democrat never was for black people. The Democrat is the party of the KKK. The Democrats is the party of Jim Crow. So Democrats never was for black people, but black people somehow along the line got brainwashed, maybe in the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. But other than that, they never did nothing for black people, even Obama. But so, like I said, she was asking the direct question and she couldn't even answer it, because she know that if she answered it correctly, that would go against her, because all these legals that come in the country have been killing people and doing this and doing that. They getting all this free stuff, and people in America struggling, and it's just it's just asinine what they have done. The disaster fund that's for disasters and hurricanes, they used all that to help illegals and house illegals in sanctuary cities, and only had $750 to give people who lost their whole life with this past hurricane on the East Coast. So, these people love illegals. Illegals have took American life. The illegals is they flood them in here, right? And they put them above black people and everybody else, because, like I say, they trying to replace the black vote, because they see black people are slowly but surely leaving the Democratic plantation, and they need new people to be voters. That's what it's all about. So once again, not even a minute through, she's already frustrated because Brent asked her a direct question. She could have gave him a rough estimate, but it would hurt her case. Let's carry on.
The point is that we have a broken immigration system that needs to be repaired.
So your Homeland Security Secretary said that 85% of apprehensions.
I'm not finished. We have an immigration
of
system
6 million people have been released into the country. And let me just finish. I'll get to the question, I promise you.
I was beginning to answer.
And when you came into office, your administration immediately reversed a number of Trump border policies. Most significantly, the policy that required illegal immigrants to be detained.
And I do want to stop it right there to say this. Brent Baer is a great interviewer. But I don't like what he just did, because he should have let her go ahead on and step on her own tongue. But he cut her off and went to another question, because he seen he wasn't going to get a direct answer, and he knew he didn't have a lot of time. So he was just trying to get to the next question, because he already understood she was going to filibuster as long as she could with the first question. So he was trying to get to the next. I do understand that strategy, but he should have let her go ahead on and say what she was going to say, because this woman, every time she opened up her mouth, she lose another supporter, and Trump gained another one.
Through deportation, either in the U.S. or in Mexico. And you switched that policy. They were released from custody awaiting trial. So instead, included in those were a large number of single men, adult men, who went on to commit heinous crimes. So, looking back, do you regret the decision to terminate Remain in Mexico at the beginning of your administration?
At the beginning of our administration, within practically hours of taking the oath, the first bill that we offered Congress, before we worked on infrastructure, before the Inflation Reduction Act, before the Chips and Science Act, before the bipartisan Safer Communities Act, the first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please? But you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate, and they didn't bring up that bill.
I'm in the middle of responding to the point you're raising, and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
We recognized from day one that, to the point of this being your first question, it is a priority for us as a nation and for the American people. And our focus has been on fixing a problem. And from day one, then, we have done a number of things, including to address our asylum system and put more resources, getting more judges, what we needed to do to tighten up penalties and increase penalties for illegal crossings, what we needed to do to deal with points of entry between border entry points. That's the work we did, and we worked on supporting what was a bipartisan effort, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Congress, to actually strengthen the border. That border bill would have put 1,500 more border agents at the border, which is why I believe the Border Patrol agents supported the bill. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States, which is a scourge affecting people of every background, every geographic location in our country, killing people. It would have allowed us to put more resources into prosecuting transnational criminal organizations, which I have done as the former Attorney General of a border state.
Madam Vice President, a couple of things.
Prosecuted trafficking of drugs, guns, and human beings. And Donald Trump, but let me just finish.
Six Democrats voted against that bill.
Learned about that bill and told them to kill it because he preferred to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And in this election, this is rightly a discussion that the American people want to have. And what they want are solutions, and they want a president of the United States who's not playing political games with the issue,
I hear you.
But actually is focused on fixing it.
Six Democrats voted against that bill. It would have allowed 1.8 million illegal immigrants into the country a year. A lot of conservatives had a problem with it. These are the six Democrats. But more importantly, back to the original premise, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, Laken Riley, they are young women who were brutally assaulted and killed by some of the men who were released at the beginning of the administration, well before a negotiated bipartisan bill. Former President Clinton actually referred to Laken Riley Sunday, campaigning for you in Georgia, saying if those men had been properly vetted, Laken Riley probably would not have been killed. So if it wouldn't have happened, this is well before any negotiation. This is well before Donald Trump got involved in the politics. This is a specific policy decision by your administration to release these men into the country. So what I'm saying to you, do you owe
Brett,
those families an apology?
Let me just say, first of all, those are tragic cases. There's no question about that. There's no question about that. And I can't imagine the pain that the families of those victims have experienced for a loss that should not have occurred. So that is true. It is also true that if a border security had actually been passed 9 months ago, it would be 9 months that we would have had more border agents at the border, more support for the folks.
9 months ago, and you was in office for 4 years? Carry on.
Who are working around the clock trying to hold it all together,
Madam Vice President,
to ensure that no future harm would occur. And this election in 20 days will determine whether we have a president of the United States who actually cares more about fixing a problem, even if it is not to their political advantage in an election, because there was a solution, Brett.
Madam Vice President, it was a policy decision in the early part of your administration. I will let one of the mothers talk about it. Take a listen.
Because of the Biden-Harris administration open border policies catch and release, they were enrolled in the Alternatives to Detention program. This meant that they were released into the United States. It was not even a full 3 weeks later that they would take my daughter, Jocelyn Nungari's life. I believe the Biden-Harris administration open border policies are responsible for the death of my daughter.
That's the early...
I mean, that was a very, very sad watch. That was a very sad watch to see that woman cry and go through that. And people may say, well, oh, it was her daughter's time. And I don't agree. Those people should have never been in this country. And if somebody gonna take my life, I would hate for it to be somebody that's not even supposed to be in this country, but they came in this country as a political pawn, and now my my son life gone. You need to take all this in consideration, voters.
Days. So do you owe them an apology is what I'm saying.
I will tell you that I am so sorry for her loss. I am so sorry for her loss. Sincerely. But let's talk about what is happening right now with an individual who does not want to participate in solutions. Let's talk about that as well.
But do you want to answer
in all fairness, I told you, I feel awful for what she and her family have experienced.
During that time, you said repeatedly that the border was secure. When in your mind did it start becoming a crisis?
I think we've had a broken immigration system transcending, by the way, Donald Trump's administration even before. Let's all be honest about that. I have no pride in saying that this is a perfect immigration system. I've been clear, I think we all are, that it needs to be fixed. We need more. I was just down at the border talking with border agents, and they will tell you, and I'm sure I know you investigate and you are a serious journalist. They will tell you, we need more judges. We need to process those cases faster. We need the support for those cases that should be prosecuted. They need more resources, and Congress ultimately is the only place that's going to get fixed, Brett. Well, that's how this system works.
That's the premise of this question.
But
there were
how
90-plus executive orders that were rescinded in the first days. Many of those were Trump border policies. I'm not going to stay here because there's other things to talk about, but you frequently talk to the Border Patrol Union for support of that bipartisan bill, and they did. They supported it. But they also just endorsed Donald Trump and said, you've been, quote, a failure with border security. Why do you think they said that?
I think they're frustrated, and I get it. They want support. They want support, and that's what that border security bill would have done. These guys down at the border, these men and women, they're working hard. They're working around the clock. I get it.
There's a lot of people that look back at what you said in 2019 when you first ran for president. And there have been changes, and you've talked about some of them. When it comes to immigration, you supported allowing immigrants in the country illegally to apply for driver's license, to qualify for free tuition at universities, to be enrolled in free health care. Do you still support those things?
Listen, that was 5 years ago, and I'm very clear that I will follow the law. I have made that statement over and over again, and as Vice President of the United States, that's exactly what I've done, not to mention before.
If that's the case, you chose a running mate, Tim Walz, governor of Minnesota, who signed those very things into state law. So do you support that?
We are very clear, and I am very clear, as is Tim Walz, that we must support and enforce federal law, and that is exactly what we will do.
So decriminalizing border crossings, like you said in 2019.
I do not believe in decriminalizing border crossings, and I've not done that as vice president. I will not do that as president.
So these are evolutions that you've had.
But let's be very clear. I'm the only person who's running for president who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations, from the Sinaloa cartel to the Guadalajara cartel, to people who have trafficked in guns, drugs, and human beings. I have spent...
Okay, that was a stupid saying. I'm the only one. Of course you were the only one. You were a DA at one time. You were an attorney general at one time. Donald Trump was a businessman before he became president. So why would he been prosecuting criminals? You were doing what you were supposed to do in California as a border state. So why are you patting yourself on the back for something that you were supposed to do and then saying you were the only one? So what? Of course you were the only one. You the only one with a law enforcement background. Make it make sense, Koala.
A significant part of my career going after people who present a threat to the safety of the American people and cross our border with the intent of doing us harm and cross our border illegally. And I will do that work as vice president. I take that work quite seriously.
This is a time when voters, especially here in Pennsylvania, are inundated with commercials and ads. They just want it to stop because it's every commercial. But many of them add noise, but a few of them seem to break through. This particular one from the Trump campaign has gotten a lot of attention.
Kamala supports taxpayer-funded sex changes for prisoners.
Surgery.
For prisoners.
For prisoners. Every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access.
American people, man, are struggling, man. More than half of the American people are struggling. Living paycheck to paycheck. Even some with degrees, right? And this is what this woman is worried about, putting taxpayers' money in. Transgender prisoners, not just transgenders, but transgender prisoners. And not saying, and I don't want to make it like, oh, I'm being insensitive to people in prison, because they need health care as well, and they need to be taken care of just like somebody on the street. But transgender surgery, titties, and all that hormonal foolishness, this is what she talking about, putting money in?
So are you still in support of using taxpayer dollars to help prison inmates or detained illegal aliens to transition to another gender?
I will follow the law, and it's a law that Donald Trump actually followed. You're probably familiar with, now it's a public report, that under Donald Trump's administration, these surgeries were available on a medical necessity basis to people in the federal prison system. And I think, frankly, that ad from the Trump campaign is a little bit of like throwing stones when you're living in a glass house.
The Trump aides say that he never advocated for that prison policy and no gender transition surgeries.
Well, you know what? You got to take responsible for what happened in your administration.
Yeah, no surgeries happened in his presidency.
It's in black and white.
Would you still advocate for using taxpayer dollars for gender reassignment surgeries?
I will follow the law, just as I think Donald Trump would say he did.
You would have a say as president.
Like I said, I think he spent $20 million on those ads trying to create a sense of fear in the voters, because he actually has no plan in this election that is about focusing on the needs of the American people. Whereas, at $20 million on that ad, on an issue that, as it relates to the biggest issues that affect the American people, is really quite remote. And again, his policy was no different. Look at where we are, though. On plans for the American people, I'm offering a plan to deal with affordable housing. I'm offering a plan to deal with what we need to do to strengthen small businesses, which are the backbone of America's economy. I am offering a plan that is about taking care of young parents and giving them the support they need. My plans for the economy will strengthen the economy, as have been reviewed by 16 Nobel laureates, Goldman Sachs, Moody's, and recently the Wall Street Journal, which have all studied our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy, his would make them weaker, would ignite inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as President of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready.
I want to go back to this because it just shows you how people, and they got people out there, and it's so funny. It's not funny, but it is. That she just said something that was and Brent, like I say, he could have said, hold up, you lying. But he said, you know what? But the people said they still rather his economy. We did 4 years in Trump. And until the last year, because of the pandemic, it was an amazing economy. Interest rates were at 1.9%. Now they almost at 10. If you buy a home right now in this economy, you won't even touch the principal for probably 10 years, 5 to 10 years. You'll be paying straight interest because of her economy. Gas prices, groceries. And the reason why a lot of that stuff went up was what people don't understand. Not so much is inflation, because when they say inflation is meaning sending all your taxpayers' money to all these other countries, that money has to be replaced. Taxes go up, things go up. But when you stop drilling oil. Another reason why a lot of things was cheap when Donald Trump was in office, and a lot of businesses, a lot of jobs was available because Trump was drilling for oil in America. And soon as they came in, because they Green New Deal, they began to drill in other countries. In Russia at that particular time. Matter of fact, if you want to be honest, they funded the war in Russia because they were buying, I forgot the exact amount of oil they was buying from Russia every week. And anytime you buying something from another country, they got a tariff on it. In other words, they got a tax you paying on it. You know what I'm saying? And so that made gas go up. And when gas go up, everything gonna go up because everything is transported by gas. I don't care if it's on the water. I don't care if it's in the sky. I don't care if it's on the ground. Everything is ran by fuel. So when fuel goes up, everything else got to go up because the people who putting fuel in their 18-wheelers, their airplanes, when that go up, they got to go up on their prices. They got to go up on their product, right? You know what I'm saying? And if you don't, and to make it simple as terms, if it costs you $20 in gas to bring 10 plate lunches all for $10, you spending $20 to bring 10 plate lunches. That's $100. Gas go up now. And now you paying $65, $70 to fill your tank up. But you think you're going to still be selling them plate lunches the same? Hell no. Because now you're going to be only making $30 profit. You're going to raise them plate lunches up to probably from $10 to $15. That way now you got $150. So after you put 7 in gas, you got pocket 80. That's how that works. So when you go up on gas because you're getting it from another country, everything going to go up because everything is transported to this country by gas. So I want to go back to when she lied and said that all of these places said that their plan would be better. Okay, it must be a new plan, Kamala. And the thing is this, why didn't y'all do that the last 4 years? Everyone knows when Donald Trump was in office, the economy was better. So let's go back to this real fast. I think it's about right here.
Our plans and have indicated my plans for our economy would strengthen our economy. His would make them weaker.
Why do you
would
think more
ignite
people
inflation and invite a recession by the middle of next year. Those are the facts.
Why do you think more people say they trust him on the economy than they trust you?
I think that when you look at an analysis of our plans for what we would do as president of the United States, it has been clear to those who study and understand how economic policy works that moving forward, because I do believe the American people are ready to turn the page on the divisiveness and the type of rhetoric that has come out of Donald Trump. People are ready to chart a new way forward, and they want a president who has a plan for the future and a plan that is sound and will strengthen our country. My plan for the economy does exactly that. His plan would be, again, to give tax cuts to billionaires and the biggest corporations in our country and blow up our deficit.
It's interesting you said turn the page, Madam Vice President. You were asked on 2 different shows last week what, if anything, you would do differently than President Biden. Here's what you said.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
Under a Harris administration, what would the major changes be and what would stay the same?
Sure. Well, I mean, I'm obviously not Joe Biden.
I know.
And so that would be one change in terms of, but also I think it's important to say with, 28 days to go, I'm not Donald Trump.
So, you're not Joe Biden.
So, in her own words, you just heard it. She wouldn't have done anything different, and she was a part of all of the major decisions, as I aforementioned in this video, in her own words.
You're not Donald Trump, but nothing comes to mind that you would do differently?
Let me be very clear. My presidency will not be a continuation of Joe Biden's presidency. And like every new president that comes in to office, I will bring my life experiences, my professional experiences, and fresh and new ideas. I represent a new generation of leadership. I, for example, am someone who has not spent the majority of my career in Washington, D.C. I invite ideas, whether it be from the Republicans who are supporting me, who were just on stage with me minutes ago, and the business sector.
one Republican, Liz Cheney, who hate Donald Trump. So don't make it like everybody. Stop it, Kamala. Stop it. There's people like me who actually know what's going on because we keep up with it. There was one Republican with you, support you, and that's Liz Cheney, who over the years have been a hater, an open hater of Donald Trump. Carry on.
And others who can contribute to the decisions that I make about, for example, my plan for increasing the supply of housing in America and bringing down the cost of housing, addressing the issue of small businesses, which is about working with the private sector to bring more capital and access to capital to our small business leaders, including my plan for a $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers and for small businesses, extending the tax deduction from $5,000 to $50,000.
I've heard a lot about those plans in recent days. Your campaign slogan is a new way forward, and it's time to turn the page. You've been vice president for 3.5 years, so what are you turning the page from?
Well, first of all, turning the page from the last decade in which we have been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country and have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Watch out, Brent. Watch out, Brent.
President, more than 70% of people.
That is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell the country is on the wrong track. They say the country is on the wrong track. If it's on the wrong track, that track follows 3.5 years of you being vice president and President Biden being president. That is what they're saying, 79% of them. Why are they saying that? If you're turning the page, you've been in office for 3.5 years.
And Donald Trump has been running for office.
But you've been the person.
Donald Trump. She needs to make a song called Donald Trump.
Come on.
Madam
You
Vice
and I
President.
both know what I'm talking about. You and I both know what I'm talking about.
I actually don't. What are you talking about?
What I'm talking about is that over the last decade, people have become. But listen, over the last decade, it is clear to me, and certainly the Republicans who are on stage with me, the former chief of staff to the president, Donald Trump, former defense secretaries, national security advisor, and his vice president. One, that he is unfit to serve, that he is unstable, that he is dangerous, and that people are exhausted with someone who professes to be a leader who spends full time demeaning and engaging in personal grievances.
This is what you call filibuster. When somebody asks you a question and you go into a rabbit hole about something that's not the answer, but you just trying to kill time and you're just trying to make a whole bunch of basically a bombastic word salad, which is she famous for. So she's filibustering and trying to kill time. Just a bunch of loud nothings that she's saying about Donald Trump. She hates Donald Trump. Everyone knows that. And her supporters hate Donald Trump. Everyone knows that. But for the undecided, that I'm trying to change their perspective. And of course, Brent trying to change their perspective with this interview with these simple questions is because people who support Trump supported Trump on steroids after this. People who support Kamala, hopefully, if they got a working brain, which if you support Kamala, but that's another story. I'm not going. That's another story. But if you support Kamala, you probably stay with Kamala, and you probably feel like Brent was the bad guy, even though he was a complete gentleman. He was a complete maestro in his interview. He played her like I ain't gonna say he played her. He just asked her a simple question. And if you want to make anybody upset, especially a woman, once again, I'm not bashing women. This is how they wired. Ask them direct questions, put them under pressure, and you'll see what I'm talking about. And if you're a man, I'm 36. If you my age, you know what I'm saying.
And it being about him instead of the American people. People are tired of that.
If that's the case, why is half the country supporting him? Why is he beating you in a lot of swing states? Why, if he's as bad as you say, that half of this country is now supporting this person who could be the 47th president of the United States? Why is that happening?
This is an election for President of the United States. It's not supposed to be easy.
I know, but
It's not supposed
Here we go. Here we go.
to be. It is not supposed to be a
so
cakewalk
are they
for
misguided,
anyone.
the 50%?
Listen,
Are they stupid? What
God,
is it?
I would never say that about the American people. And in fact, if you listen to Donald Trump, if you watch any of his rallies, he's the one who tends to demean and belittle and diminish the American people. He's the one who talks about an enemy within, an enemy within, talking about the American people, suggesting he would turn the American military on the American people.
We asked that question to the former president today. Harris Faulkner had a town hall, and this is how he responded.
I heard about that. They were saying I was like threatening. I'm not threatening anybody. They're the ones doing the threatening. They do phony investigations. I've been investigated more than Alphonse Capone. He was the greatest gangster. No, it's true. No, but think of it. It's called weaponization of government. It's a terrible thing.
So,
Brett, I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated when he's speaking about the American people. That's not what you just showed.
he was asked about that specific...
No, that's not what you just showed. In all fairness and respect to you,
that was the question that we asked him.
you didn't show that, and here's the bottom line. He has repeated it many times, and you and I both know that. And you and I both know that he has talked about turning the American military on the American people. He has talked about going after people who are engaged in peaceful protest. He has talked about locking people up because they disagree with him. This is a democracy. And in a democracy...
Uh-oh, here she go getting mad with all her lies. Everything she's saying, go look it up, is a lie. Go look up Donald Trump, what she just said, sending them. Now, at one point, it was time whenever people was looting and burning down countries. In 2020, Donald Trump did say that he asked some of the mayors if they needed the National Guard because these people were tearing down the city. Excuse me. These people were tearing down cities. There was nothing peaceful about their protest. They were looting and, doing all of the things that they was doing. And Donald Trump asked a lot of their mayors, which was Democratic mayors, and didn't want to do it. Do you need help from the National Guard? Because apparently y'all police department can't handle it. So she's lying, and everything she said, go look it up. See, people like me, people like Brent, we do research so we know she's lying. But let's carry on.
The President of the United States, in the United States of America, should be willing to be able to handle criticism without saying he'd lock people up for doing it. And this is what is at stake, which is why you have someone like the former chairman of...
People that steal and loot and burn people's businesses down because something didn't go their way needs to be locked up. Or in the words of the great, what's his name? I forgot his name. Ron DeSantis. They loot, we shoot.
The Joint Chiefs of Staff saying what Mark Milley has said about Donald Trump being a threat to the United States of America.
He's quoted in the Bob Woodward book that way, yes. Let me ask you this, Madam Vice President. You call Donald Trump...
the significance
you
of that.
call Donald Trump... he's misguided. You say now
he's unstable. He is unstable, Brett.
He's not well. You say he's mentally not stable.
He's not stable.
Let me ask you this. You told many interviewers that Joe Biden was on his game, that ran around circles on his staff. When did you first notice that President Biden's mental faculties appeared diminished?
Joe Biden, I have watched in...
And that was a good question. Because clearly everybody in America with a working brain seen over the years that our brother Joe Biden is falling apart in front of the public eyes, and he need to be home. I'm not gonna talk about it because I got old people in my family. I got people in my family that's gonna get old, so I won't talk about him from something that he can't control, which is his health. But his health was declining, and he was going in. Doctors, not me, but doctors were saying he was showcasing the early signs of dementia. This man's supposed to be home with his wife and his grandchildren. This man is not supposed to be no public office. Over the last couple of years, he did so many different signs, shaking invisible people's hand, saying people was in a crowd that had been dead for years. just saying all kind of stuff. And like I say, multiple, not just one, multiple medical professionals across the United States had said that he showed the early signs of dementia. And so she was around this guy, but yet was lying, saying he was sharp as a tack. So the reason why Brent asked her that question that you say Donald Trump is unstable, what he was doing was he was showing how she don't know what she talking about and her judgment is bad. Because you saying this guy who go all around the country, play golf on his off days and do all kind of stuff with his grandkids and sharp as a tack and super, super shrewd, you saying he mentally unstable, but yet you was with a guy for 4 years in his administration and you said he was stable. So your judgment is very bad. And that's what Brent Boyd would showcase with that question. For those of you who like, well, what's going on with this? Because why he asking this? He said, well, that's why. He was just showing how she's a liar and he was showing how she had bad judgment. So you saying this guy, right, is this, but the guy was around you ain't that, but you saying that about this guy. Like, what are you saying? Carry on.
From the Oval Office to the Situation Room. And he has the judgment and the experience to do exactly what he has done in making very important decisions on behalf of the American people.
There were no concerns raised?
Right. And that's why they made him drop out to put you in his place. Exactly. You right. Yeah, right. Who you think you talking to? If that was the case, he'd have never had to drop out of the race and you'd have been running. Everybody in their right mind with a pair of eyes and a working brain could see that Mr. Joe Biden, it's time for him to go home and be grandpa. It's over with for his political career because he had showcased early signs of dementia according to medical professionals and according to anybody who had people in their family with dementia. We've seen it.
Joe Biden is not on the ballot.
I understand.
And Donald Trump
but
is.
You talked about it.
And Donald Trump
after
is.
George Clooney said within a few minutes of talking to President Biden at a fundraiser that he thought this was not the same Joe Biden that we saw on the debate stage.
Donald Trump is on the ballot.
I understand. You met with him at least once a week for 3.5 years. You didn't have any concerns?
I think the American people have a concern about Donald Trump, which is why the people who know him best, including leaders of our national security community, have all spoken out. Even people who worked for him in the Oval Office, worked with him in the Situation Room, and have said he is unfit and dangerous and should never be president of the United States again, including his former vice president, which is why the job was open for him to choose another running mate. So that is a fact. That is a fact.
Madam Vice President, 2 more things. You were asked on 60 Minutes about the biggest threat that the world faces, that the U.S. faces. This is what you said.
Which foreign country do you consider to be our greatest adversary?
I think there's an obvious one in mind, which is Iran. Iran has American blood on their hands. Okay? This attack on Israel, 200 ballistic missiles. What we need to do to ensure that Iran never achieves the ability to be a nuclear power, that is one of my highest priorities.
I'm Jason Kelly, you're Alex Rodriguez. We're here in New York, and this episode, David Rubenstein,
That is one of my highest priorities.
A number of experts thought you would say China. The FBI director had said that. But you said Iran. If that's the case, what do you say to critics who look at the actions of your administration and say you're not acting like Iran is the number one threat?
Well, I will tell you most recently, whether it was in April or in October, in the several hours on each occasion that Iran posed a threat to Israel, I was there. Most recently in the Situation Room, in the most recent attack, working with the heads of our military and doing what America must always do to defend and to support Israel in its requirement to defend itself and to give American support.
I'm Donald Trump, and I approve this message.
Israel to have the resources to defend itself against attack, including from Iran and Iran's terrorist proxies in the region.
Right.
And that
but those
is
proxies
and
were getting funded
my
by
commitment
Iran.
to that is unyielding and unwavering.
Critics just say that you either relaxed or failed to enforce sanctions on Iran, allowing all of this money to flow into Iran, like billions.
Let's go back to Donald Trump, who pulled out of a deal that would have actually put Iran in check.
The estimates
and then
in billions.
It was during Donald Trump's administration that Iran
regime
that we had an American military base that was attacked, where American soldiers suffered traumatic brain injuries, and Donald Trump dismissed them as headaches, not to mention how Donald Trump has treated and talked about America's military and military service people, calling them suckers and losers, has diminished the significance.
Over each other. I apologize.
I would like that we would have a conversation that is grounded in full assessment of the facts, which includes, I think this interview is supposed to be about the choices that your viewers should be presented about this election, and the contrast is important.
Yes, ma'am.
And on the subject of Iran, I am offering what should be an important contrast that is presented for folks to make a decision
and there are critics
that they feel
who look at what the administration did and say and think differently. Madam Vice President, they're rapping me very hard here.
Rapping him very hard. In other words, saying, shut it down. Shut it down now. And if you go look into another, Brent Baer actually spoke on this when he got interviewed after this, and he was like, man, they was on him hard, like, stop it now before we come over there and get her.
Hope you got to say what you wanted to say about Donald Trump. There are a lot of things.
There's more to say. I have much more to say.
There are a lot of things that people want to learn about you and your policies, and that's why
I invite everyone to go to KamalaHarris.com, and you will see that I have 80 pages of policies that are quite comprehensive and should be accessible to anyone who would like to read them. And it includes what I intend to do about affordable housing, what I intend to do about small businesses, what I do
and that's why we invited
to strengthen
you here,
our economy,
to see where you were in 2019 and where you are now.
America's military, and ensure we have.
In other words, why didn't you do it while you was there? Or at least try to?
Have the most lethal and best fighting force in the world.
Madam Vice President,
and
they're giving me a hard rap.
Well, I thank you for the time.
I thank you for the time.
It's good to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
No more time.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.